Alright, this is the final reflection, and this is my second take. The first one, I totally talked and I didn't hit the record button, which was great because I got to clarify my thoughts for you, and this is the final thoughts and my final reflection. I'm going to be talking about from our book, From Slavery to Freedom, by Franklin J.H. and Higginbotham E.B. from 2011. I'm specifically be referencing chapter 6 and 7 and going over that, as well as talking about Gabriel's conspiracy and Denmark's Vesey's conspiracy. Um, But I just want to start off and say that this reflection and being able to read a history of black from the start of it all, black slavery from the start of it all, to up to the current, which we're not quite there yet, up to, not to the current, but to Civil War, is quite remarkable, and definitely something I recommend that everyone reflects upon. I want to start with chapter 6, which it talks about the building of communities in the early republic. So, black successes. What is a black success? Well, a black success is different for everyone. From what I read, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Quakers and the start of basically bringing the church around as like a freedom or a sanctuary place to be around, I feel is the huge success, or the huge, I don't even know if it's a success, it's more like a breakthrough. It's like their foot in the door to freedom. They allowed themselves during church, even though, they had not 100% black churches, but some of them were, some of them weren't, some of them were controlled, by basically white people. But it was their ability to, teach each other and to learn and to grow as individuals. And I think that's that's the key to anything, any individual. And I'm just happy that that was available for them, and in that they learned leadership. They kind of had, they started to develop structuring, some real inspirational and spiritual poetry and letters that would show you and explain like how to do everything, and there were just so many like different things that they were able to build the first Methodist church, that they were able to build and get to, like, it seemed like such a rough road, and I'll talk about that road for sure. But so you have these slight successes, and then you have the politics of it all. And so as politics, sort of developed, or our government sort of developed, from like this to fifth compromise and all this other stuff that's happening, they just said, okay, those that had land, even though they were a free slave, not a free slave, but a free black person, they had land, so like they could vote. But then our politics were like, okay, and the South was just like, no, that doesn't work for us, like we got to figure this out. And so politics always constantly change. So now it ended up being like where, oh hey, you're now just whites can vote. And so if you didn't have land, it was okay, but you're white. And so like laws just constantly changing based off from what was going to basically, not, in my opinion, not make the South leave. Like they didn't want a civil war. They didn't want the breaking up of the government because it was so fragile and new and starting to develop and whatnot. So in my opinion, it's just, it's just like one foot in the door. You see successes with black people, all of that was like, in my opinion, it's so minimal stuff that we take for granted, like reading and writing and stuff like that. But for them, it's just like a huge success back then. Um, so then you have the politics always changing. It's just this constant, like, imbalance of things, and so constant confusion again. But there's one thing that I want to talk about in chapter 6 that was personal to me that we didn't really get to talk about in class, which is the War of 1812, where these guys, these black little regiments were, and these black fighters were amazing. And it says in the book like how important they were to and vital they were in certain situations, um, and how key they were, and how good of fighters they were. And I just want to point out that even in my experience, like in the black people that I served next to in Iraq, is these guys are warriors, and they deserve and have deserved every bit of credit that they've done for military service. And I just really want to commend people for that, that have served, that are black, and continuously serve in our armed forces in general. So that's just one thing for me I wanted to touch on specifically, because I feel like that is it's just commendable. And so given that there was just a lot of confusion, so they're given freedoms, but then and people that were fighting for abolition of slavery also had slaves. So there's just a lot of stuff that didn't make sense essentially in chapter 6, and that's just my reflection on it. Chapter 7, I mean, here's the prime mover: money. It's always about money. South was always about money, 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 money. That's all they cared about. So enter the cotton gin, boom, profits. Like they profits are going to go up because they can have this cool machine that kicks out cotton, boom. So slaves are needed, boom, more slaves. Then they realize, oh, well, hey, look, like if other people need slaves, I can start basically, well, not that they didn't before, but they were breeding them, whatever. And they're like, oh, well, I can sell this one for X amount of money because he's healthy, he's strong, he does this, he is a skilled worker, you know. And they constantly had this like divide of, skilled workers, non-skilled workers, and then you had female and male workers. Like female did a lot more domestic stuff in the house, whatever, cooking, cleaning, very, I guess, if you want to say just traditional woman roles as far as work was concerned, and men did more of the agricultural work focus. But so that's what ended up happening. It's all just about money. They can't ever catch a break, is what I wrote down. Is they just can't ever catch a break. It didn't no matter what was happening, they can't catch a break, because it's like here they're working so hard to gain revenue for their slave owners, and then boom, slave codes. So here's slave codes. You can't go here. You can't do this. You can't go this. You can't have arms. You got to carry a chit because you're walking to the next door neighbors. And then they made sure they enforced it by setting up like patrol systems that would go out and be like, hey, check this person, and then bring them back as because they were property or whatever. It was just constant struggle, and these patrol systems were generally white, or well, they were all white. Some of them which didn't even want to go, some of them didn't even want to be on the patrol system, but here they are doing it, and just and then so people, even in my opinion, in my current life, even, it's just like people can only be pushed so far, and some of that can be self-inflicting in general, and some of that can be, like Black's experience during slavery is just this like constant, well, here's a little bit of freedom, but then you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just always something. And so you're going to get backlash. You have overseers beating the crap out of you for no reason. They're just terrible people, just it doesn't matter to me, they're just property, just beat them up. So it's just like something's going to happen. So here So blacks started cutting their hands off or cutting their fingers off or sabotaging things just to to say to be like, oh, I didn't do anything, this kind of like sideways part. But you know what? When you're pushed to the limit, like you have to do something, you know. And so there's two guys specifically that I want to talk about that, in my opinion, you know, they didn't. Yeah, by definition, they did conspiracy, but I don't think it's conspiracy at all. I think it's uh, heroic is the thing that they did. They're pushed to the limit. Is uh, Denmark, Vesey, and Gabriel Prosser. Um, but both of these guys, skilled laborers. Gabriel was a blacksmith, um, and he was in Virginia. Wanted to basically, get something going as far as conspiracy. So he got people together because skilled laborers were able to kind of, navigate their ways through things. And same with Denmark Vesey, but his was in South Carolina, so there's a little bit of difference there. Different skill that he had, I believe, carpentry, if I remember correctly, and they both were able to gather people basically and unite them to be like, we're sick of this, we're done, we're fed up, whatever. And the consequence to always being I think this sometimes is where it wouldn't be I don't think it'd be considered nice guys finish last, but like sometimes heroes have to do they have to make leaders have to do the hardest jobs. They got to make the hardest decisions, but they got to figure out they got to do what's best. And inside of them, they do what's best. Both of these guys say, look, we're done, we're fed up. So they get a collection of people together, they start building weapons, collecting weapons, what have you. And in both cases, the white people catch hold of it, or are told, this is what's going on, like they're about to go crazy, here's the plan, like here's what they're about to do. And so naturally, once the white people hear or catch wind of this, they're just like, nope, not gonna happen. So they start rounding everybody up. They start, basically, saying, okay, like condemning you. You can't do this. You can't do that. Some of them being hanged. Like, I believe in uh, Denmark's. I can't remember correctly, but yeah, it's just like 47 were hung, and it's just like, for what though? You think in these both conspiracies, you think for what? For doing what's right. And from my perspective and from what I experienced is, like, sometimes I ask myself the same question. Like, why did I go to Iraq? Like, why did I go there? But internally, myself, I think I went there because I wanted to fight for freedom. I wanted to fight for everybody that's here. Every last person. And I can just imagine that, that's these guys' intent was like, enough's enough. And even someone like Nat Turner, who came back after running away, and uh, you just think, wow, like you hear a call internally, and you answer the call. You're doing what's right. And to conclude, I just want to say that I truly appreciate, these guys, in particular, and everyone that stuck up for themselves to do the right thing, even when it was hard. And I don't think that anyone that stuck up for the abolition of slavery was anything less than a hero and someone that should be commended. And I just want to challenge everyone out there, or anybody that listens to this, that you too look inside of you, and if there's something bugging you that's just like, hey, you know, I got to stand up for what's right, you got to do it. You just got to. And I just encourage everyone out there to do that like these guys did. And yeah, and so that's my final remarks, and thank you for these reflections and this class, and really opening myself up to see a different view and to see something other than what I've been told. Thank you.